Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we got Vince Torres from hard rock band Awake at Last.
How you guys doing? I'm glad to be here. It's nice to get a chance to chat and talk about music and like see that the world's kind of starting to wake back up to it all, you know what I mean?
It's killing me to know that I'm at war with who I was and who I am. Is kindness my weakness? A million minds, I hear the cries, I'm powerless to change what they see. So this one's for the fallen. We're moving mountains, snow and sand. We hold the world inside of our hands. Bring the light, don't you rain on my parade. Doesn't matter what you say, you can follow me to my grave. But I've got unfinished business.
I wanted to start out by digging into some of your history. How did you get into music? What age did you start playing guitar and singing? And
So it kind of started. I was pretty young, man. High school was rough on me. It was pretty rough on a lot of us, emo kids back in the day. But I definitely was always in music. I remember being in a lot of choirs and stuff growing up, and then around high school is when I think I was probably 14 when I like got a guitar and like really started looking into like songwriting and stuff. And then once I got a guitar, it's all I did like all the time. I always wanted to just keep writing songs and it was like being someone who was like heavily bullied and heavily like a weirdo misfit like my whole life. It was the first time that people started to like see me in a weird way, I guess, if that makes sense. So it was like by being, I don't know, the music kind of just showed people a side of me that they like couldn't come at anymore. They were like, oh, he may be kind of that weird kid that draws all the time, but at least he can sing and he can play a little. And then, once I got a feel for it, and I had a lot of bands that I was listening to at the time, and I just went nuts on it, man. I've been playing. I probably started playing in bands when I was about 16, but I picked up the guitar and really started getting serious around 14. But I've been playing piano and singing since I was like 9. So it's always kind of been there for me, for sure. Music's been like the most solid thing in that I've always had in my life.
could you name some of your musical influences?
Yeah. When I was younger, I really loved bands like of course I was there for like the era of like when the Used and My Chemical Romance just like blew off of just totally opened the world up to like a whole different like world of music. But even before then, I was really into like bands like AFI. My dad actually raised me on a lot of like Santana and Journey and like some of those like I always had like the classic rock in the background of my life. And even some like 70s rock influence like Kenny Loggins and like, Don McLean and stuff. I actually was named after the Don McLean song Vincent. So it was kind of like one of those things. And so there's always been a lot. I would say AFI, The Used, My Chemical Romance were big ones. I love the band Muse a lot. Muse is one of my favorites. I love the theatricality of it, and I'm also inspired by like by actual musicals. Like I love Phantom of the Opera. That's where I get some of the kind of spookier stuff from. Like, of course, I love like Danny Elfman and Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride and stuff. So it's always kind of been there. But like those are definitely some that I think you can like hear in the music if you pay attention, right? You can hear a little bit of that AFI or a little bit of that My Chemical Romance kind of moving through, because when you're writing and you're creating, it doesn't matter what kind of canvas it is, your paint is always going to be influenced by those who like showed you the colors.
Can you tell me how the band formed?
So Eric and I, my guitar player, have been playing together since high school. We actually like our first show was like classic Battle of the Bands like high school show in front of like all of our peers, which was like terrifying when you're a teenager, especially one that was like heavily bullied and made fun of. But so him and I have always been writing songs together, and there was a couple different bands before Wake It Last even formed where we played in many different projects together. But eventually, I want to say around 2009, I think I moved to Philly for a couple years, and it was like the first time we were actually like away from each other for a while. And I was kind of just trying to flap my wings, you know what I mean? Get out of Delaware and see what else was kind of out there, and then you know when I came back home, he was the first person that was like waiting for me. So we immediately, with all the experiences we had gone through during our time apart, we came together and immediately started writing songs again. And and it's been a long journey. I think we started the band in 2011. So and our main goal was to just put out music, and the whole way that we like carved our path through was touring. And I'm talking, we went from playing like we would play anywhere that would let us, bro. We would just find venues and be like, "Hey, like, you need a band? Like, we won't even charge you." Like, dude, we played for so many shows just to get that word of mouth going. We did like old school, and we just kept grinding and grinding. And then, of course, we went through some changes and people and like players and stuff like that. And I would say that like when we came together and did the Life Death Rebirth EP and started and came out with the song like Purgatorium. I think that's when we like really like locked in. I was playing guitar and singing when we first started the band. But eventually we recruited Imran, who's our other guitar player, and then they were like, well, hey, like we want you to like just front the band, like just take the mic and just do all the singing. Which I think I was like at a point where I was ready to evolve to just singing, because playing guitar and singing, I loved it, and I still like do a lot of the writing in the studio. But it is difficult sometimes to get your muscle memory down to like do more complex melodies or more like And I got really into like I was always into like musical theater and stuff, so it's hard to do a lot of like weird staccato lyrics while I'm trying to hold and keep a rhythm. So I think it just naturally kind of progressed from there. But we just kept touring, and eventually, we got into law of attraction really bad, really like deep. Eric and I got really into it. We started trying to just visualize how we wanted things to go, and we just applied what we could to it, and we just made it happen. We just tried to make it happen the best we could, and thankfully we've made some amazing fans. And now, it's been about 11 years now that we've been doing it as a group, and here we are, man. Just still grinding away, man. Just trying to make some noise in this crazy world.
How did you come up with the band name?
So originally the band name was that we came up with a bunch of different ideas, and like I said, Eric and I were in earlier projects where we had different names and stuff. Wake at Last was originally, we were gonna go with the name Alive at Last, and it was kind of like it was similar, but then when we got a little bit more into like the spiritual side of things, and that's something that I think's followed us throughout the whole journey. We were like, well, when you talk about a spiritual awakening, or if I was to like take our listeners by the shoulders and be like, yo, like you do not need to like like you have power of personality, and you have the power to like kind of create your reality around you. So it's kind of like wake up. So I think when we finally realized that we wanted to do music not just as a catharsis or something that we just always loved and always had, but make a living with it, we ourselves kind of had an awakening of sorts. So I think Awake at Last formed then. And then once we like said it, because with band names, you toss around a lot of different ideas. Some bands will just like come up with something on the out of nowhere, and they're like, oh, that sounds great, that'd be a great band name. This one, when we finally said it and we finally like got the logo and put it out there, it stuck. So and I'm happy that it did, because I do it does embody a lot of what we've been trying to do like as a band and stuff.
What city is your band based out of?
Eric and I, who started the band, are from Delaware. He lives in a little city called Dover, Delaware, which is the capital. I live a little bit north of that in Smyrna, Delaware, currently. So technically, we are from Delaware. But two of our other band members, Imran and Drew, our bass player, they are in Staten Island, New York. And then our current drummer, Jeff, he's located down in North Carolina. So we're kind of like scattered to the wind. But I would say like the band, it all started in Delaware. So we're technically from Delaware.
Okay, I wanted to dig in a couple of your songs. Um, it was off the Armageddon EP, and you have a song called "Unfinished Business," and there's a lyric in there. It says, "It's killing me to know that I'm at war with who I was and who I am." Is that kind of like explaining like you're at war within yourself?
Y- Yeah, basic. I think so. I know that any artist out there can probably relate to that. That voice in your head that always tells you you're not good enough and you're never going to like. I mean, they're never usually really good enough for yourself. You have to have those outside kind of like voices to kind of like push you through sometimes, and when I was writing that song, it was fresh into the pandemic. I remember that. So it was very like my head was a little, I was twisted. I was like very at war, like, is this it? Like, if like, because live music, as you know, like took a major hit. Like it was like I got a call eventually from our booking and stuff, and they were just like, there's nothing for the foreseeable future right now. And it was like, since 2011, every fiber of my being was dedicated to building this band and building this group and having these people that were like really, all these listeners that were like really like with us, and we were really finally starting to kind of like move through and do things. And there was this like, there's always that version of yourself that's always better, like future you, that's always like, this isn't it, this isn't going to be it. But when everything shut down, it was terrifying because I was like, oh my god, like, who am I without the band? Like, am I, it was a weird, existential, thing that was kind of happening. But unfinished business, as the line continues, going from, it's killing me to know that I'm at war with who I wasn't, who is kindness my weakness, because sometimes I wonder, you hear stories of some of these band peeps or guys that, people, some people will step on other people to succeed and stuff like that, and here we are like trying to figure it out, but like, now, we weren't quite on that plateau yet. And like, was it because we were, maybe I wasn't more intense with like business choices or like more, so things like that kind of were really ringing in my head when all of that was going down. So it definitely, that war within myself has always been between the part of me that is like, small town Delaware normal cat that just, kind of a nerdy kid that was just doing it. And then there's this like version of me, this successful, rocker, you know and I think I've always kind of like fought against that, or I've always been kind of chasing that version of myself. So it definitely is kind of a war when, you want to be something, but you feel like you're never good enough to be that version. It's kind of hard to explain, honestly. But yeah, it has something to do with the war. But it's also about overcoming that war and unfinished business as a whole. Saying that like we had the full length record, The Change, which we had put out right before things had gone down, and unfinished business was like my way of letting not just the listeners know, but vowing to myself that like I'm gonna keep going. Like, I've got unfinished business. I'm not ready to be done this yet. I'm not ready to put it down, even when the world was shutting down all around us, and there was nobody knew what was going to happen in the music industry. You know what I mean? It was chaos. And so yeah, there's always going to be that war. I think I still fight it daily. You know what I mean? Especially now that we're like coming back to it, and like people are finally able to start coming back out. Shows and stuff are starting to open back up. Like, it's been 2 years. Like, I haven't had the road or the experiences, or just like, we've been just writing. It's been all internal. You know what I mean? So I think it's always kind of been a little bit of an internal war happening.
The sky is painted blue and gray. I say goodbye to your lost soul. Eulogize and drop a rose. I'll burn the bridge and walk away. There's no need to make amends. We were never even friends. It doesn't matter what you meant to me. I remember what you did to me. This is the
You have another song, it's off of that album, and it's called "Dead to Me," and there's a line in there, it says, "You are dead to me, and there's no resurrection. Because of your deception, you are dead and gone." That seems like cutting somebody out of your life final. No coming back or nothing like that.
Yeah, I was honestly a little sad to, obviously it was a hard time for me like when I was going through what I was going through that wrote that song, but when I saw how many listeners had their own story about people, cuz like I was saying, not everybody is kind, man. Not everybody is out to be on your team. You know what I mean? There's people who will step on you if it will get them further than you. And, and I think that a lot of people in this day and age have struggled with like trust issues and stuff. Like, let's face it, like social media, like people before even the internet or social media, you maybe interacted with 350 to 500 people in your entire life. And now, these poor younger kiddos even are just like, there's millions of things to compare yourself to. There's millions of people that are coming at you from all different angles. The algorithms put you in touch with all these different people, and it's like a weird. People have lost that sense of like trust. I think a lot. I think that a lot of people are just kind of in their main characters in their own story, which is fine. Everybody should be the main character of their own story, but you know, sometimes people just walk on people, and Dead to Me was kind of it was sort of about that. Like sometimes there are energies that are obstacles that are in your path that are stopping you from progressing and becoming what you're meant to be. And it hurts. And it's never pleasant to like have to remove certain energies, because it can be family, it can be romantic, it can be friends, like it can be any of that. And although I was really happy to see how many people like loved the song and like could relate to the song, it was kind of sad because I'm like, damn, like that means that every one of these souls out there have had to like cut somebody off out of their lives because not everybody's out to be on your team, so it was kind of it was cool to know that I was able to relate and I wasn't alone, you know what I mean, and that always felt great. And it's the song is like really fun to play live too, because everybody's got that person that you've had to cut out. So when we can all scream it together, it's like a nice big middle finger to whoever like screwed you over in the past. So it definitely like I it's about cutting energies. It's like bad fruit. Cut the bad fruit out of your tree because that bad fruit's eating up all of your energy, and you're not going to be able to grow as long as that fruit is trying to pull you in a different direction or trying to overcast over you. You know what I mean?
There's another song, the Armageddon song, and you were talking about who to trust and everything. And I think this line kind of goes with that, where you say, "I know we're human, but we got to be better." You know, um, when you wrote that, what were you thinking?
Armageddon has a couple of different pieces that kind of created as a whole as a song. That part specifically was me post pandemic, watching, just walking through anywhere you did go, because some of us still had to like go, you had to wear your mask or whatever, but anywhere I went, it blew my mind how divided people were because of the pandemic or political views or whatever it was, and I always dodge those. I was always raised like never bring up politics, never bring up religion at like a party or whatever. That was always been my vibe. But it like when things went down, man, it was like they put a whole magnifying glass on that specifically, and then of course the internet algorithms just if you were hating on this side, boom, here's a bunch of people who are also hating on this side. If you were hating on this side, boom, here's a bunch of people that are hating on this side. Keep growing, keep screaming off of your mountaintops, and who gives a shit, and so when I say in the song, because when like I was joking earlier with you, like when Armageddon was kind of written, like looking at everything that had gone down, like was this, was that going to change everything? I think all of us had that fear at some point. It wouldn't have been such a big media blowout if people weren't nervous. People were scared. People, vaccine, non-vaccine, like conspiracy, aliens. Like everybody had an opinion about something that was going on over, this pandemic thing. And there's always that old saying that like humans are not perfect, like to error is human, right? And that's true. I never, no, I'm not perfect, and nobody's perfect. But when I was looking at during this time of crisis and this time of like truly terrible stuff that was happening across, not just the country but the world, man. Like, I got friends in Japan that were going through it. I got friends in Mexico who were going through it, family and stuff. And everybody, like, it felt like people chose hate and like division more than love and like support, and so I know we're human, like I know we're not perfect, but we got to be better. It was kind of like, we will end up destroying this world if we don't come to some terms. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be understanding, and there needs to be, or at least I think so. And I think that's where that line like really stems from. So Armageddon was taking a look at that, and like, media and the news, and then there's like the whole fake news thing, and like everybody was like on one side or the other, and everybody was hating, man. Like family members like would stop talking to each other because of like difference in beliefs. I'm like, man, even the founding father Thomas Jefferson said like difference of religion or political, party should not rob me of a friend or should not rob me of a family member. But it felt like everyone was just angry and confused, and instead of like coming together to like strengthen each other, we chose to like like target it at each other. And I think that, that was the wrong move. Like I feel like there could have been a lot more spiritual, uplifting, elevated minds if we had chosen peace instead of just warring with each other. So that's kind of where that line kind of descends for me.
What do you guys got planned for 2022?
So 2022, I really wanted to start 2022 on like a really positive note, right? Like I really wanted to be like, yes, it's been a few years. We have been working, as an artist. I know, for me, the the time away from the road and the time away from the fans and stuff was really hard, because that's my favorite part of the job. You know what I mean? Like I love going out and I love seeing people. I love traveling the country, and that was everything. Like all the other stuff was worth going through because we were able to go on tour and like do our thing, and and I get to play these songs and see our fans and all that stuff. And when we didn't have that, as most artists, I know we all wrote, right? Everybody wrote. Everybody had stuff like we had been experiencing like leading up to the pandemic, and then when it happened, it was like, well, here's a 2-year pause on existence to like get your thoughts out, So, and it was a dark journey for me, man. I lost one of my nearest, dearest, closest friends like right before things went down, so I had to like go through grief while also having to like grieve like the band and being unsure. So it was a really tough time. So we wrote, man, and I just took my art and I just put it on a canvas, and I was just, I mean, I've always written songs that have a little bit of a fictional twist, a little bit more storyteller than like, I always like hid behind third person perspectives, even if the songs were kind of about me or experiences I had had. And during this pandemic thing, I could only write what I was truly feeling. So it was like a huge catharsis and a huge outlet for me to like kind of get it out of my system. So and a lot of that went down over 2020 and 2021. And in 2022, New Year's, I was thinking, all right, cool, mask mandates are pretty much done. We got like, let's do early spring. We could maybe get back out there and we can like reach out our hands and like, get to the fans again and like get back to doing what we love, because we spent so long just in the studio and dealing with the business side of things, or you know what I mean? Like it's you know when touring was the best part of the job, all we had was the other stressful stuff, and everybody was stressed because the music industry was just like, I don't know, like I have no idea, like I don't know when shows are opening back up, like, and it was chaos. So we wrote, and for 2022, I'm hoping that slowly but surely we can get back to getting back on the road. And we've got these songs that we've been working on. I can't wait to put to get those out there so that the fans can hear like kind of what we've been up to, and give them the next chapter, and like hopefully people relate to it and we can like move forward together as we like get back into it. But yeah, man, I'll never forget when New Year's went down. I wanted to have like a big get together with all my friends and stuff. Then there was that huge COVID resurgence where like all the masks went back up, everybody was sick, like it was the Omicron thing, and I was just like, oh my God, it's like, is 2022 going to be another year of this? Like, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? Like, we had all this music, and so for 2022, I'm expecting to come out swinging as hard as I can because it's, who knows when the damn COVID is going to come back, or who knows what next disaster is waiting for us. So I'm just going to do what I love best, and I'm just going to, I'm going to throw as much music and passion and, you know, get it out there. That's certainly our plan. We want to come out as hard as we can. I hope that the music industry, after this huge gap, and I feel like I've been kind of already seeing it a little bit with some of the tours that are going on. There's like a renaissance, man. Like rock and roll has been struggling for a little while. We've been kind of like probably the least profitable music, like compared to like hip hop or pop or even country. Like rock it, we still going for it, but it's not as hard, it's not as not as easy. But I'm seeing these tours and like mad people because they were missing out on shows and stuff, and that's a big catharsis for a lot of the fans and the listeners too. Is like, a lot of those guys need to go to those shows so they can just rock out and get it out of their system, and like express themselves and like be a part of their communities, the rock communities that we've built and the fan bases we've built and stuff. So I'm hoping that we can come out and there'll be like a renaissance, man. And like everyone who would usually be like, oh, I'll go check out this band next time they come through town, they're going to be like, nah, they're in town. Like, we're going, you know what I mean? Like, I really hope to see that. We're going to do everything we can to get, more music out there, play as many shows as we can, and, just get back to it and just you know, ride the wave as much as we can to like kind of continue working our way through the chaos, because the world is still scarred, man. Like the pandemic's it's mostly coming back in a lot of ways, at least on the surface of things, but like people are still divided. There's scars, man. Like that, the world is still very like interesting right now, but you know music's got me through everything else, so I'm hoping to just get some good music out there, get some good shows, and take it from there, you know what I mean?
Do you have like an worth of material already ready to be released?
We definitely have we've definitely been putting in a lot of work, and if everything goes, we are hoping to have something new out by the end of the year, right? So there's still a lot of moving pieces, there's still a lot going on, but as of right now, like we are expecting to have an album out by the end of the year. We don't have a definitive date yet, but that's definitely like a part of the kind of journey and the planning that we're going into, or at least at this phase right now. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that if things, as long as no crazy pandemics or something happen, like knock on wood, yes, I would like to put out an album by the end of the year. I don't know when yet, but I know we're moving pieces around for sure.
How can we get a hold of you? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter?
Instagram and Facebook are probably the easiest ways. I want to say, for me, I do a little bit more on the Facebook side of things, but I need to like pick back up on Instagram. But Instagram always updates, man, and I'm always like, man, I don't understand. Like, why is it harder to like make posts now? Like, this is weird. Like, so I'm a little more on the Facebook side. But yes, the band as a whole, we're always, we share everything that we can to those two. Twitter, not so much. I don't think we do too much on Twitter, but we still do. I know there's still updates, and we still get stuff out. Everything's kind of attached, you know what I mean, whenever we do release things. But I would say Instagram and Facebook are probably the best ways. We also have a website, awakeatlastrock.com. That's like the go all. You can go there and it'll link you to anything, music videos, all that stuff. So those would definitely be like the main sources. It is the social media world after all. So we're all kind of, we've all got our pieces that we're moving around and building up. You know how it is, man. You're in the podcast game. It's the same game with different characters. You know what I mean? Different controls.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
You know, nothing too crazy. But thank you so much for having me. It's always nice to talk. I apologize to any of your listeners if I just rambled too much. Like I said, pandemics have been having us just sitting in the studio. Just I haven't had a lot of time to like vent things. So I appreciate the opportunity, man. Thanks for taking the time and talking to me. Thanks for digging a little deeper and checking out the lyrics. That I love talking about stuff like that. I get to give a little bit of a unique perspective, but I always try to make things relatable. I don't always want to give too much of my own perspective away because I love when fans are like, "Oh, did you mean this when you wrote this line?" And I'm like, "I didn't." But I really like that that's what that meant to you. So, other than that, just, take care of each other, love each other, promote and support your friends who are trying to like do things, you know what I mean? Support the channel, support, Music Roundtable. Take care of your people right now because there's enough hate in the world, man. And the only thing that's going to help any of us get through it is if we get back to togetherness and love and trying to like find a more positive way to communicate with each other. So, if there's any little tidbit I can leave with your listeners, that would be it. Just take care of yourselves and take care of those around you. Because who knows what the world's going to do to us next, man. We just gotta. We're stronger together, man. Just there's enough negativity. Stay posy.
I remember what you said by the fire. You told me that we didn't need a hero. I always said that I would keep on fighting. I didn't know that it would be alone. I wish you were here, 'cause everything changed when you went away.